First step, guys, we're going to remove this top panel, the hazard light switch. So you're going to use a plastic non-marring pry bar, and you're going to just tuck it in behind here, and you're going to lever it off a little bit. Just be really careful when you're doing this. You don't want to be damaging any panels, and sort of lever towards the plastic. Next step, there is two 10mm bolts above the stereo. Once you actually get that plastic out, you're going to undo those. Step, you're actually going to remove the glove box. So you're going to pull it down, and on the left-hand side of the glove box, there's a little lever. You're going to pinch that together and pop that off. So it's just loose, so you'll see that that's loose now. And then you're just going to pull it upwards towards you on both sides, on the left and the right. And that will pop the glove box out. Okay. Now when we do this, there is actually a bolt in here. And this is where we're going, it's a 10mm bolt. So we'll see if we can zoom in and see it. A little bit hard. We'll move the camera. It's way in there, okay? There's actually a 10mm bolt. You'll be able to stick your head in, have a look, and you'll be able to undo that as well. So just in, see if we can do it without looking. There, okay? So you see directly in line with that ratchet, and you'll be able to undo it. All right, cut it there. On the driver's side, we're going to pull off the left-hand side panel, or the left-hand side of the SRS airbag here, and there's a Phillips head screw just here. That is going to be the first thing you have to remove. Okay, and then you can just pull forward on that panel, and pop that panel right off. You can use your pry bar if you want to use the pry bar, and if you come around the other side, you can just cut it there with the panel. And when you pull it forward, you're going to just pop this off. This is the receiver for the climate control, so you're just going to pull on that. And that will pop off, and then there's a locking tab on the top here. You're just going to push down and remove that as well, and that will pull that cover off. Okay guys, the next step is to remove the steering column shroud, this cover, so that we can get to the bolt on the driver's side. It's going to be directly opposite the one that we just showed you on the passenger side, but the shroud is just in the way to make it really difficult to get to. So what you're going to do is turn your steering wheel control, or the steering wheel around with the car on, and there's two screws just behind the steering wheel, and you actually have to move it, one on either side. It'll be fiddly to get out. Then once you've got that off, you can turn the car off, and you'll be able to pull that shroud apart. Okay, you'll see it there, and that will just pop down, and that'll give us enough room to get our ratchet in the right hand side there, or the driver's side, to get that bolt. Okay, so once you've got that shroud off, you'll actually be able to look in from the right hand side, and you'll actually be able to see the bolt, and you can undo it. So it will take a little bit of time, there's not much room here, and it will take a little bit to crack it, the nut, the first time, just to loosen it up a bit. But you can undo that manually. Just take a couple of minutes to undo that, and you'll be able to get it right off. Once you've got those two nuts out and the two top ones, or the two bolts, it will just pull forward, and you'll be able to pop that unit straight out, and you're going to have to jiggle a little bit and then undo the plugs on the back. So you're probably going to have to lift it upwards a little bit. There's a little bit of tape there, and then come around the back of the unit. So if you come up here, make sure you have your hand cupped underneath the unit so you're not actually scratching anything on the dash, and you're going to have to go through, unclip all these plugs. So there's one. Oh, first things first, make sure you get any CDs out. If you have any CDs already in the car, turn your car on and get any CDs out, because once you undo the power, you won't be able to get them anymore. Okay. No CDs in here, so that's good. So we can continue. So just get the power here, the antenna, a couple of the other looms. They've all got locking tabs on the top of them. And also the USB one here, it's a 4-pin USB. Once you've done all the stereo, fold it forward, and down the very bottom you'll be able to undo your climate control one as well. And that's the unit completely out of the car, so not too bad. Have a look at the configuration here on the back. 2 plugs here, 1 plug here, antenna plug, USB adapter plug, and the air conditioning one. And that's the whole unit out of the car. There's the unit on the bench, guys. We've got it all out, and that's all the brackets that you have on it. I'm going to show you now the parts that you're going to require to actually wire it up and install the unit. So first up, you're going to need this fascia panel. So this is a new kit to actually allow the aftermarket stereo. It's a standard doubled in size. It will fit any aftermarket radio. So here we're going to be using the Kenwood unit today. So it's the Kenwood DDX 9017 DABS. That's an awesome unit, and I'll explain why we're going to use it. These are the new brackets we're going to put on. So this all comes in a kit. We're going to sell this on our website. You can buy the fascias on their own, or you can buy this whole lot as an entire kit for those Subaru Imprezas, Levorg, Forsters, to make life easy. So those brackets are going to emulate the side here, so you're not going to use those old ones. We're going to completely use new ones. Now the reason I'm going to use Kenwood decks, all these new ones are really good because they've got built-in steering wheel control, so it means you don't need any additional adapters. It's all included already in the unit, so it saves you money and it does make the wiring easy. These have Apple CarPlay. They also have Android Auto for all that. They have built-in Wi-Fi for air mirroring as well, mirror off your phone, DAB+, digital radio, and they will adapt the steering wheel controls, and they have 2 USBs out the rear, which is really cool. And they have a new feature coming out this month. It's a driver recorder or dash cameras, so you can actually have them plug into this unit and do driver recording. So I really love those units. So now these are the parts you're going to need to wire it. So you're going to need an antenna adapter. So we actually use these from Stinger Australia, STAAT10M. That's the antenna adapter that we will need. I will list it on our website for you. This is the Toyota plug, so this is for the power and the speakers. Yeah, we get these from AirPro in Australia, the APP0141. So that's the car side, and then it goes to international standard. So that's that side of it, and it goes to international standard. Then you go from international standard to whatever aftermarket radio you have. We're using the Kenwood ones. So this is the new Kenwoods for these multimedia units. The part for that is APP9KE4. The last thing you're going to need is this. This is a USB adapter, and this will allow you to retain the factory USB. A bit hard to see there, a bit blurry. The part number is AX-SUB USB, SUB USB. So, and what that part is there is this one here. So that will allow you to adapt the factory USB into aftermarket USB that plugs into the back of the unit, so that will plug in. So this will make it all plug and play. Now, the Kenwood units typically come with this as your wiring loom, but when you buy that replacement AirPro, it allows it to be plug and play. So you won't need to use that. It will be used as the plugs that we give you. And this is the steering wheel control adapter that comes in the box, but we don't use that. When you buy these kit from us, we actually pre-wire it for you, and we create this plug, which is really cool. It's a 28-pin Toyota plug or Subaru plug, and this will allow you to retain your factory reverse camera and the steering wheel controls all plug and play. And you can see there we've done the steering wheel control input, so that will plug into the car and that will plug into the back of the stereo. And then we've also done this, so that will come from the car's factory reverse camera and it'll plug into the aftermarket reverse camera, so it will work with the new screen. We also have an antenna adapter, so that's this Stinger part we talked about a little bit earlier. That's the factory radio antenna to go to aftermarket radio antenna. And this will make it completely plug and play, literally a 5-minute install, and I'm going to show you how to do that now really quickly and easily. And there will be a few parts I'm going to run you through. We do have to mount a GPS antenna, very easy, and because this unit has a external microphone for clear voice talk, we have to do that as well. And then there's one last thing, it's got digital radio, and DAB plus digital radio in Australia requires a separate antenna to your normal AM FM, and this is an on-glass antenna. It comes in the Kenwood box, and we can show you how to mount that as well. So this is how easy it is going to be in the car. These are the main power ones, power plugs here, and they're just going to plug straight in, so that's power and speakers. Then what we've also done is the antenna, so you can see that here, we'll plug in there, and then this adapter for the steering wheel controls and the factory reverse camera is here also, so that will plug in completely. And that is really all the wiring, and they're all the plugs that actually undid from the factory stereo, and you've got that earth which will park on the chassis once you put the brackets back on. So that's everything wired in. We still need to run the microphone in, the GPS antenna which we're going to mount in here, and also the DAB plus radio. And the last plug we're going to do here is the USB adapter. So this will allow the USB down here, the factory location, to be active, okay, and it will run directly on the unit, and that just plugs in as well, and that will plug into the back of the stereo. Now, case in point here, depending on if you're an Android Auto user or Android phone or iPhone, you want to plug this part into whichever is relative to you. So we're going to show you which of those are on the back of the Kenwood decks, but obviously when you're using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you need to have it plugged in all the time. So this is easy accessible, and you can run the other one into the glove box, but whichever one you use predominantly, you want to make sure you plug that in correctly. So that's all the plugs. Very easy with that loom, plug and play, no damage to the factory looms. Okay guys, now we're going to move the brackets across, the new bracket. So the easiest way to look at these is they do mark it left and right. So one says L, one says R, and left hand side. So you make sure they're facing the same way for the stereo, so you're doing the same side. And the easiest way is to line the front up with the front fascia of the leading edge of the stereo, because then it's going to sit nice and flush when you do the stereo. So line this up straight, and then you're going to go by the top, this top bracket and this bracket. You want to have them in line. Disregard the bottom because it's going to place in a different section when we put in the car. So you can always get a set square or something in straight and put it alongside it if you want to make sure you're in the right locations. And it's going to be a bit of trial and error, and that looks like it's going to be the right spot for us. And you're going to use these screws that are provided for you. Actually, not those ones. There's some in the box actually. Let's check them out. Here they are here in the actual Kenwood units themselves. They actually come with some threaded screws. These other four are actually going to be to hold the air conditioning controls on. I'll just get some of those out. Got a whole heap of them there. And once you've lined it up, just going to screw it in place, and it'll line up nicely with some holes. But there's quite a few variations there, so you just got to make sure you got it in the right location and go from there. I'm going to put 3 on either side. There's 3 on that side. I'm going to flip it over and do the same on the right. And once you've done the one side, you'll pretty much be able to line up the rest really easily. So you'll see it, you'll work out which holes it goes in. We're using a drill, but you can hand do it. Just don't over tighten, just do it nice and gently so you don't thread anything. Just using a drill for speed. Okay, so that'll be the main brackets, and what you'll end up with, the reason you want to line it up with the front is so it sits nice and flush and not proud. So this one's going to sit here in like that, nice and neat. So if you see the sides, it's going to sit nice and neat there, not like this sticking out too far. So it depends on how you like it. You can have it like that, but it kind of looks a little bit ugly. Do it nice and straight like that. Next step's going to be, once you've done those brackets, so do those brackets first because you've got the old ones as a guide, because that top bit is going to be the same. You can pull these old ones off because we've got to get the AC control off down the bottom. So to do that, you actually have to pull these brackets off. That's why you line them up first. Take those brackets off, left and right. I'll do the right hand side as well. Okay, that's all the brackets off. Once that's done, we have a carpeted bench here, so if you're going to lay this on its face, make sure you do it with a rag or something. And we're going to undo the AC down the bottom. There's 4 screws. Okay, and then we're going to move that across to the new fascia. So here's the new fascia, guys. We're just going to slip the AC into the position, and we're going to keep this matting here. Just again, we don't want to do any marks, especially on this one. This is the new fascia. You can see it all lines up there, nice and neat. And the trick is you just want to make sure all those buttons you can press properly, they're not rubbing against anything. And then you can screw it up. We're actually going to use the old threaded screws here because they're actually a lot nicer. They'll actually bite and they'll pull in. Now this one I suggest probably hand doing. I'm not going to because we do so many of these, but I suggest doing it by hand if it's your first time, so you don't over tighten it, because if you over tighten it you can thread it and then it won't hold properly. Okay, so there's that side. You can actually check them, make sure they line up nice and neat, and that way you know they've done it correctly on both sides, so you can see they're flush. That's going to look nice and neat, so we'll get that a wipe down when we get it in the car. Check it's all pressing, but that's the fascia ready to go on, and we can put the unit in. Now we're quickly going to show you how to run the microphone and the DAB antenna. and the GPS antenna, and that's going to be the last thing. We can mount up the unit and then put the fascia on. So now we've done the mounting of the brackets and also the wiring and the stereo. We've got 3 more things to run, which is your microphone, the GPS and the DAB antenna. We're going to put the mic up in the center just behind the rear vision mirror, so it's good for both passenger and driver. Run the cables along the hood lining and run it down the A-pillar. We're also going to put this this DAB antenna up here as well. We're going to do it all at once because it makes it nice and easy. So your first step is actually just pull off this pinch weld. So again, you can use your pry bar if it's easier for you. And this pinch weld actually just pulls off. And you can pop this forward, just pull the A-pillar forward, and that will give you enough room to be able to run your cables down. And we're going to do it on the passenger side because you've got the glove box out already. It's just going to make it a lot easier to route the cables into the center. First step is you peel the back off the microphone bracket. That's just going to stick up here in the center. So be sure to center it nice and neat. Use the lines, and then you're going to route the cable up behind the dash cam. You've got the driver assist cams here that are built into the car. So make sure you tuck these up nice and neat because you don't want them getting in the way of the camera. You can use our pry bar here and run that along and tuck it up as neat as possible all the way along. Now I route it around the side, get it over the back here first, and then we can pull the lining down a fraction and just tuck it right up, because you never want this thing falling down while driving. Sometimes you can put a little bit of double-sided tape around it just to hold it up a little bit better and make sure it never falls down. Just run that across. And that's behind the airbag, so that you don't interfere with the airbag. Up out of the way. And she's nice and neat. There you go. I'm going to put a little bit of double-sided tape on there so that cable doesn't come down. I'm going to tuck that away a little bit better. Now, the next step's going to be the DAB plus antenna. So this is for the digital radio. So you will still get normal AM, FM radio, but this unit from Kenwood does have this additional antenna because it runs on different frequencies. And it's just a clear little antenna. I'm going to pull it apart here. There's a lot of tape on this thing. Okay. And this is it. That's basically the antenna there, this little clear piece, and it is labelled. It's got 1, 2 on it. So you're just going to pull off number 1 first. That way you can stick it on the windscreen. Be careful not to put your fingerprint marks all over it because it is a sticker. And just hold it from the edges. And we're going to put it up here right next to the corner. So it's just unnoticed, and try and mount it nice and straight. And you're just going to layer it on like a sticker, okay? Push any air out of it, and then you can pull off the number 2 section once you've done that. Okay, that's how you stick it on. Now, there is a secondary section which is the conductive part of it. So it uses the metal in this little antenna here, and it's inductive through the windscreen. Excuse me, I'll just pull these cable ties off quickly. Okay, here it is here. Now, this is important. So you've got 2 double-sided tapes here. You're going to peel them off. It's a little bit tricky. Just use a blade or whatever's easy to get it off. Okay, and there's 2 double-sided tape parts here. Now, this little metal tab has to sit on this little metal section here on the window, and you can line that up. You just got to make sure the easiest way is just to put it alongside it and make sure it sits directly on that metal, okay? And then this little metal tab, so this is actually a metal strip, will go through and touch onto your A-pillar, okay? And that just amplifies the signal a little bit better. And then you can run that cable, again, with your microphone around the airbag. So I like to do it behind the airbag so it doesn't interfere. You'll have the airbag section behind there. Just going to loop it around the back of it. Okay, that way it's not going to ever interfere with your airbag situation. Okay, and then you can push that back on the A-pillar and clip it back on, and that sits on there nice and neat. And then we're going to route these along here down the A-pillar, nice and neat. So these you can actually tape up a little bit if you like. We're just going to pull it through. Going to put a little bit of tape on that, and then we're going to route it across the glove box and out the center. So we'll let you do that. There we go, we've routed them behind the glove box, we've tied it up nice and neat, and that's out the front there. So you have your DAB antenna and your microphone, and we're all ready to plug that in. While we're at it, we're going to show you how to put this glove box back in. It basically just clips in on these circles here onto the located tabs on the car on either side. And you start off by doing it on a downward angle like this. They just line up, and then you push it in and up. You'll hear it click. Okay, there you go, clicked in. Then on the left hand side, you just make sure you push that tab on that we put it on, we took off when we took it off. Just check it works properly, and that's nice and easy. Okay, we're up to putting the stereo in now, so we're just going to mount it up. Oh, sorry, Dave just pointed out we do have to do the GPS antenna. So this is the GPS antenna. We're just going to mount it up here on top of the air vent. It has got double-sided tape on this one. Some of them are magnetic, but this one's double-sided tape. So you just want to put it up nice and high and somewhere it's not going to move and it's stuck really well. So that's not going to get any metal above it, because it needs to have clear line of sight to the sky to get good reception. You can just pull the cable out there, and we're going to put a bit of tape around this to make it look a bit neater, and then we're ready to go. Plug it all in. And that will mount at the back there, nice and neat. We have all our plugs. So now we're up to plugging everything in and running, mounting it up, sorry. Now this is what I was talking about on these Kenwood units. You have two USBs out the back. Now one's for Apple CarPlay, which is the black one. The grey one is Android Auto. So it's important that whichever one you want to use predominantly for this factory USB, that you put in the right one. So this gentleman is actually an Apple user, so we're going to be using the Apple one straight in front. And what we're going to do here, we're actually going to route this other cable, so this grey one, back down in the glove box, so he has another USB if he wants to plug in some other music devices and things. And you can just route that into the glove box. There's plenty of gap behind the stereo. Just going to stick it through with your hands, and that's it, out the glove box, and that will close no problem, so you can use that for any other device. Just going to grab some tape. I'm going to put a bit of tape around this. Go again. Okay, so we're just going to tape this up because we don't like them coming loose. If anyone's ever yanking on any of those cables in the glove box, you don't want it pulling out, because then you've got to pull the whole stereo out. Now, got to be careful when you're putting all this stuff in not to scratch the dash. So it's easier to just do it in your lap. Maybe put a bit of plastic or some cloth down so you don't hit anything. But these are really self-explanatory. One is DAB. They're all clearly marked on the back of the unit, and they really will only go one way. This is your AM/FM antenna that plugs in. Steering wheel control is going to do last because it's a bit short. We have the reverse camera here, goes into rear view camera. Again, we're going to tape around that so it doesn't come loose. Okay, you've got that. You've got your main power harness here as well. That's going to plug in. Can only go one way. We have our GPS antenna, which will go into the GPS. We have our microphone, which will come across here. Oh no, not there. Where is it? Up top here, it says mic. There we go. And make sure those don't get knocked out when you place them in. Here's the factory USB that we're going to adapt, so it's going to plug into the Apple one that we talked about. Again, we are going to tape that. And it's important when you're doing this, don't use, there's two extensions in the box, but if you're going to use an adapter, don't use the other extension in line as well, because Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are very current sensitive, and the longer the cable, it doesn't actually work if you have a lot of extension cables on it. And this is the last one, the steering wheel remote, and it goes to remote in, okay, not remote out. There is a remote out as well. So that is all the cables that you're going to need, and then it's just a matter of feeding them into the dash nice and neat, not jamming any cables, making sure you've got plenty of room, so you tuck them down the bottom, and we're going to mount it in properly. So it's going to take a couple of seconds to do that nice and neat. That's going to go in there. Once you've actually tidied that up nice and neat and got all the wires in there so you're not jamming them, you can actually put the two bolts back in the top. And the cool thing about this is you don't have to put the side bolts in from down the bottom, because the new brackets will actually give you 4 screw holes. Okay, they give you a couple of screws in the kit on which you can use. Just going to tighten these up a bit. Okay, we'll just do them up loosely. Then we've got a couple of screws here we can put in the bottom. Now you can try and fit the fascia on top of it to make sure it's in line. You can sort of get it centered. There is a couple of locator tabs that it will actually sit in, so you can't get it too far wrong actually. So it shouldn't be an issue. You can do this by hand, doesn't have to be drilled. Just bites into some plastic, tighten up your top notches, and then we can actually put the fascia on. So we have the fascia here. Don't forget to clip the AC back in place, and then we can trial fit it. Make sure it's going to look okay. Hang on, get it nice and neat. Sorry. And there you have it. And you can clip it in. It should just clip in place. Down the bottom, you got a few locator tabs that have to click in. There you go. Nice and neat. Okay, that's perfect. And now we're going to put the top in and clip those in as well, and turn it on, and we can test it. So we can actually test it all out now. Dave's just turned the ignition on, and what we're going to do is we can actually go through, and you want to pair up your Bluetooth, make sure your microphone's still working, check your reverse camera, all those sort of settings. It takes a couple. You can change these load up screens as well to be a Subaru logo, whatever you need. You want to turn demo mode off if it's already on, and the reverse camera, you want to turn reverse camera interruption on. Parking guidelines you want to turn off on this vehicle because the camera in the car has the guidelines already. And then once you set that up, you can go into the unit, take your foot off the brake, and yep, try that out. We'll just show you the reverse camera works. There's the reverse camera. So we didn't change any of that, we just interfaced it, nice and clear. Very, very good. And that is the whole unit in and running, and it will actually do the steering wheel controls. So the last thing we're going to have to set up is the steering wheel controls. We'll go in the settings, user interface, steering wheel remote controls, and it'll take a couple of seconds to turn on. And then what you're going to do, we'll zoom out a little bit here, you go to your steering wheel controls, which is a little bit hard to see. Here it is here. So we'll start with the answer button. So you push that down for 2 seconds. It'll come up on the screen, and you scroll down and you choose the answer button. So there's the answer button. Then we can go back, push the hang up button for 2 seconds, and basically you're just mapping what the button control is. Left and right, we have a source button. So source, which will be source. There's a voice button. I think this unit actually has voice control, which you can go down and find. But you can map this however way you like. There it is, voice control. Is there left and right on these? And we've got track left, track right, so I can set those up. What else is there? What's that middle one? Mute. We've got a mute button in the middle. Is ATT or is there a mute in here?
Yep.
ATT. So ATT is mute. You got an up and down. What does that do?
Volume.
Oh, volume. Of course. Almost forgot volume. Volume up. Volume down. And then once you're finished, click Learning Complete. And that should actually set up all your steering wheel controls. So we can try this out. So source. Flicking through the source there. And we've got volume up, volume down. As you can see, all works nice and easy. You've got a mute button there, so there's the volume muted, but all works. Then you also have digital radio. So in digital radio, you can go through and search for the radio stations as well. So you can put search, but you get all these extra radio stations that are not typically on most AM, FM radios. All right, we're gonna go ahead, clip the top in. That's just gonna plug in, 2 plugs, clipped in, and this car is done. And this is the after result. So this is the new Kenwood DDX 9017. So this now has DAB radio, so DAB+, so you have a ton of new radio stations, but it also has Apple CarPlay, built-in Wi-Fi, does all the steering wheel remote controls, so you can do that from the steering wheel, all included, all built in, but really easy. And we're going to do a full DIY video and show you how to fit it, and we're going to sell the kits complete for you, and you can do it at home on your own, really easy.